Hello everybody! Today I'm looking at Hades. I want to have a little look at this one. It's not technically a review, it is my first impressions, it is my thoughts and opinions on this game. I haven't really given it enough time to give it a full review. I don't really do full reviews either. But I want to talk about it because I've got a lot of thoughts and opinions on this one. Now, for full disclosure, I bought this game with my own money. I am not being paid or promoted or sponsored in any way. All thoughts and opinions on my own, and just bear that in mind that I did purchase this game with my own funds. So this one is in early access. This is an early access game. It is published and developed by Supergiant Games, who, if you've never heard of Supergiant, Supergiant have developed two other games that I have enjoyed a great deal. Those games being Bastion and Transistor. If you've never played either of those games, I highly recommend them. I highly recommend that you go and give them a go. They are both single-player, narrative, story-driven games that are both short and sweet. They're not the longest of games ever, but what they offer, in my opinion, is fantastic. Now, Supergiant Games have a little bit of a reputation, and that reputation is for having fantastic soundtracks, and I do mean fantastic soundtracks. And they also have usually a narrator who will narrate the gameplay, who will narrate what the character's doing. In the case of Bastion, the narrator actually breaks the fourth wall fairly often. It's part of the quirk of Bastion, if you will. And so this game is the same. This game also has a narrator. This game also has a fantastic soundtrack. In fact, why don't we have a little listen to some of the soundtrack right now? There you go. So that is some of the music. I personally love it. I think it sounds, if you've played the other two games, you can immediately recognize it. It sounds similar. It has the similar sort of feel to it as the other music in the other games does. And I like it quite a bit. So this game, like I say, is in early access. Now, I have to be honest, I'm very critical on early access, and very critical, in fact, of early access, mainly because I have bought early access games in the past that I've not been very happy with. Now, early access has the potential to be abused. It is a system that a lot of developers will put a game out that, in my opinion, shouldn't be released in any at all, and often we get buggy, messy games that really, you know, just aren't fun to play. And a lot of people say, well, that's the point of early access, right? Well, I don't necessarily agree. I think if you're going to be putting something out to be tested, it should be at least playable. I like the fact that early access exists. It gives developers more freedom, but it often does get abused, and there's no real punishment really for a developer to not finish a game. Like, what happens if a developer doesn't finish a game? What if they just scrap it, you know? What if a developer that is still in early access releases an expansion pack? Looking at you, Ark. You know, these things that happen. What about early access games when, and you know this, you know when you buy a game in early access that you expect this. But what about games that take a radically different approach? Look at We Happy Few, that turned out to be a completely different game than a lot of people have bought. So this is what I'm saying. You've got to be very careful with early access, and I'm very skeptical of early access, as I have been burnt before. So when I saw that this game was in early access, but it was also a game produced by Supergiant, I was on the fence, because I really like Supergiant's games that they've released in the past, but I'm not really a huge fan of early access. So I pulled the plug, I made the decision, a bit of a gamble, in my honest opinion, whenever you buy an early access title, a little bit of a gamble, and I thought I would let you know, am I happy with my purchase or am I not happy with my purchase, and that's the idea of today's video. Now, I want to start by talking about the start screen. because I think there's a lot of information on here, and I think there's some things I want to talk about. So like I say, this is an early access game. Now, one of the first things, you do get the early access pop-up. I think I put that in a minute ago. You can see the little disclaimer, hey, this game isn't finished, so on and so forth. You know, basically protecting us from you getting angry when the game doesn't work properly. But anyway, this game has some information on it. It has your options. I'm not going to go through the options. They're pretty standard. There's nothing here. There's nothing here that I think is missing that should be here. All this is good stuff. Rebindable keys. I love rebindable keys. I need rebindable keys. If you're a PC game and you don't rebind your keys or allow me to rebind my keys, then I'm going to be very angry. Send feedback is a key. You can do it in the game with a hotkey. I like this a lot. Everything's pretty standard. Nothing here, you know, that I think it feels unfinished or feels like it needs work. This is fine. This looks like a proper game. Patch notes. I like this. Patch notes are very well laid out. They're color coded for your ease of access. Very in depth, and they tell you how often it's updated. This was updated today, in fact. So I like that quite a bit. Alongside that, there is this next major update, live in 31 days. I don't know what they mean by major update. I'm going to assume, from the games that I've played in the past and my own experiences, I'm going to assume a major update is content. That's new content. That's not balancing it in and things like that. I'm going to assume that they're going to add new things into the game. But we'll see. But I like that they tell me exactly how long till the next major update. It lets me, remember, okay, in a month, we're going to have some new stuff. So, as well as that, we have these down here. We have these little icons that are sort of tucked away down the bottom. These are, let me just be fully honest with you, these are links to external websites. They are links to outside of the game. They're not in the game, if you will. They are links. So just beware that if you click on one of these, it will open a browser. Just know that. But you have a link to the website. Fine, that's great. You know, you might want to go to the website. I'm sure, cool with it. You have a link to their Discord for feedback, which I will be joining very shortly, because as much as my feedback on this game is mostly positive, I still want to see how the developers are, talking to their customers or talking to their players. So you have the mailing list, fine, not really much to say about that. The soundtrack, by the way, if you click on this, it will link you to YouTube. It will link you to a YouTube channel with all of the Hades soundtrack on it. Highly recommend having a little look on there. Some fantastic music, as I've said. This game, like all of the Supergiant games, has fantastic soundtracks. And you can go and listen to that on YouTube. They don't have ads on the videos, as far as I can tell. So that's fantastic. So finally, we have a store. Now, this one, I looked at it and I was immediately worried. I was like, hang on a minute. Store? What do you mean a store? This is an early access game. What do you mean store? Don't worry though, this store is a merch store. It is not an in-game store. It has no loot boxes or microtransactions that I can see. This links you to a physical merchandise store, which honestly I'm fine with. I'm fine with them putting a link to their merchandise store, especially considering that the merchandise on there looks pretty good. And again, it's not screaming to you, hey, click down here and buy me. It's just there if you want it. If you don't want it, it's hidden away. It even hides the word store. It's all hidden away. It's all optional extra stuff. I'm fine with it, but just know that that is not microtransactions. That is all physical stuff. So that's the menu. Again, I'm kind of happy with this. Everything looks good. The art style looks nice. Everything's great. We've got a lot of information on here, which I like to see for an early access title. I like to know that developers are still working on this game and they're improving it. So let's get into the game. Let's have a little look at it. So I have played around 3 hours. I have played around 3 hours of this game. We haven't talked about the genre of this game. If you don't know the genre of this game, by the way, it's a roguelite. It is a roguelite. It is a dungeon crawler. It is in the same sort of genre as games such as Slay the Spire or, well, not Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire was a deck builder, but it has similar themes to Slay the Spire, the roguelite themes. But Dead Cells and Binding of Isaac, those kind of games. It's similar to that in feel. Some people have been comparing this to Dark Souls, and I don't think that's fairly appropriate, but we'll get into that. But so we play as Zagreus. We are Zagreus. We are the prince of the underworld. We are the son of Hades. And our one objective of this game is to leave the underworld. Which you might think, well, that sounds pretty easy. No, the underworld, I don't know how much about Greek mythology you know, but the underworld has one job, and that's one job is to keep the dead in. And we're trying to get out. So that's what the game's about. So let's have a little chat to this guy. This is our skeleton buddy. He's our training dummy, if you will. It's like a have a little chat with him.
You're getting pretty strong, I'll give you that, boyo. Strong enough to smack a guy like me right up against the wall, and I'd go straight to pieces. Boom! You just remember, when you're duking it out, the walls are your friend.
Smack guys against walls. Sound advice as ever, mate.
There we go, that's Zagreus. We're a teenager, we are a little cocky, we are a little sure of ourselves. Not too much, I like him. I like Zagreus. But this game is all about going through the dungeon, trying to progress, trying to get to the end, and each time you die, you go back to the start. It is a roguelite, you have permadeath, you have to start again. However, this one is very fair. A lot of games that have permadeath will strip you of your currencies and so on once you die, but this one is fairly lenient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into a run, I'm going to show you a run, and I will show you some of the mechanics around that run while we're there. It's a lot easier to explain them if I show them to you. So let's get into a run. This, by the way, this is the hub. You always come back to the hub after every death, but again, I'll show you that when we die. So let's go into a run. Let's go and see how the game plays. So this is the dungeon. This is where you spend most of the game. This is what you're trying to escape from. It is procedurally generated, so every room is semi-random, with semi-random enemies and random rewards. Now, like a lot of games in the genre, you have to kill every enemy in a room before you can progress on to the next one. But this game tells you exactly what each room is going to contain before you go into it. So this is the first room. Let's go ahead and get our first reward. You always get given a reward at the beginning to get you going. So let's accept this one. This is a gift from Ares.
Destruction which you sow, but I shall never do so. I fully understand your impulses. Allow me to indulge them.
So the Olympian gods, or some of the Olympian gods anyway, will try and help you by giving you blessings, and they give you an option of 3. So in this instance, we have a normal one and 2 rare ones. Now there are different rarities, and the more rare, the higher the quality. You have normal, rare, and epic. The better the ability. And they are all very thematic. For example, Ares is all about causing sort of damage over time, whereas Zeus is all about lightning and knockbacks and that kind of thing. You know, chaining lightning, and Poseidon likes a lot of knockbacks as well. But they all play very differently, and they upgrade and influence your base abilities. So, for example, we can take this one, Curse of Agony. This will cause our attack to now have more damage. Now, with the starter sword, the weapon that we have right now, you have your standard attack, which if you attack 3 times in a row, the third one is called a thrust, and you can change that. You have a special ability, which is this kind of AoE thing, and then your character always has a dash ability, very handy for getting out of the way. And you also have a right mouse button ability called the cast. Now the cast is interesting because you can only do it if you have this gem. See how it went away? You have to recover it. Now if you hit an enemy with it, it will stick in the enemy and you've got to kill them before you can get it back. Or if you miss, it will go to wherever it lands. You've got to pick it up. You can of course upgrade any of these abilities. Your dash can be upgraded, your attack, or your cast, or your special. They can all be upgraded and change how they work depending on what blessings you receive. So let's go ahead and finish this room. Nice easy one to start with. There we go. So every room is separated by a door, but each door will tell you exactly what reward the next room will contain. So this is telling me that this next room will contain a key. Now let's have a little chat about the currencies. There are 4 currencies in this game. There are keys, there is ambrosia, there are money, and darkness. Now 3 of these you get to keep if you die, and only 1 you lose. The only one you lose are coins. The other 3, the keys, the ambrosia, and the darkness, you get to keep, and these are the 3 that upgrade your character long term. The coins are much more about the short-term gains in the dungeon than they are anything else. You can also get some cosmetic rewards in there for your bedroom, but really they're about things in that run. The rest of the other 3 are what increases your power long term, and this is what you get to keep when you die, which is why I say this game is very fair, and also I don't think it is very much like Dark Souls. And why people think this game is like Dark Souls is because of how some of the combat works out, and I'll show you that in this next room. What I mean with the comparison in Dark Souls is that in this game, really, you have to time your attacks well. You can see a lot of enemies, they will telegraph their attacks. You see how it glows white before it's going to attack? Very much like they do in Dark Souls. You have to learn you know, how each enemy works and how best to avoid them. And once you learn, you can kind of avoid them fairly easily as long as you're smart. Now, it does obviously get harder when there are a lot of enemies on screen, but once you've figured out how an enemy works, they're pretty easy to deal with. Now, on top of that, you have certain abilities that have animations that will make you vulnerable. For an example, my AoE ability, once I have cast that, I am vulnerable, I cannot move, and I cannot dash until that animation has completed. So if I were to mistime it like that, I'm vulnerable. And I think that is it. That is the only comparison this game really has to Dark Souls. Now, you could argue that the currency darkness is spent very much like it is in Dark Souls, but this game, you don't lose it when you die. You keep your darkness when you die. It's not something that Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and so on, they punish you for dying. This game doesn't. In fact, this game rewards you for dying, and we'll get onto that in a little while. But keys are used for unlocking new weapons. They are also used to unlock new abilities to spend your darkness on. Darkness is how you upgrade passives on your character. Ambrosia is tied to the reputation system, which we'll get into when we die, and coins, like I said, are designed to be spent on the run that you're in. So this next room contains coins, so let's go ahead and get some coins. We'll beat some enemies. Something else to mention about the combat, by the way, is that there are a number of little things that the game doesn't really tell you at the start, but it will tell you later. Things such as if you hit certain enemies, you will stun them, or you will interrupt them. Not stun, interrupt them. So like these numbskulls, for an example, if they're charging, if you hit them, more often than not, you can stop them. Now, you can also knock back enemies, and if you knock an enemy into a wall or into a trap like that, you will get more damage. Finally, there is also another mechanic, which I don't know if I can show you in here, but if you destroy certain parts of the map, certain pillars and things like that, if you hit them, rocks will fall from the ceiling and they will deal damage to anybody that they land on.
Good enough.
There we go. So now we have a choice of rooms. If we go into this one, we'll be rewarded with some darkness. If we go into this one, we'll be rewarded with some ambrosia. I'm going to get the ambrosia because it's a little bit more rare than darkness, and the reputation system is important. We'll get into that. So there are certain environmental things that you have to consider, certain traps to avoid, certain things that you can knock enemies into. But all these things you'll learn over time. It's nice and easy. You'll learn these over time. For example, these things, that if you attack them, they will blow up and they will deal damage to anybody, enemies or yourself, standing next to them. So the next room is a health upgrade. So this is like a rest room. You get an upgrade, you get a free upgrade, and you also get a fountain that will heal you. Nice little reward room, kind of nice and easy. So now again we have the option. We have the option of a store. We can go and spend some of our money, or we have the option of a darkness room with an elite in it. Let's go and have a look at this room. And in fact, I think I'm going to die here on purpose, just so we can show you how death punishes you, or sorry, should I say how it really doesn't punish you in this game. Let these guys kill me. There we go. So we died. We were overwhelmed. The enemies were just too strong. And we died. So of course we've lost our progress. We have to start all the way again from the back of the dungeon. Oh no, that's bad. Which of course it is. Of course it is. You want to get to the end of the dungeon. You don't want to go back to the beginning. But whereas a lot of these games will punish you further by stripping you away from your, stripping your currencies away from you or giving you a penalty, this game actually rewards you for dying. Now, this is the hub, as we were talking about earlier. And there are lots of different characters around here, and you can converse with them. And if they have an exclamation point above their head, you should definitely talk to them, because this means that this is a next step towards a new level of reputation with this character. So let me have a quick chat with him.
Watching the pool of sticks, you know, the ripples in the blood and everything, and sometimes somebody pops out of there like you. House staff and guests of honor, no one else. I sign them in and help make sure they have a pleasant stay.
Well, sign me in then.
So that dialogue meant that you have now got the next level of reputation. Maybe not the next level. Let me show you what I mean. In the Codex, this is Hypnosis who we're talking to. We already have level 1 reputation with him. And to get to level 2 reputation with him, we'll need to get another 95 conversations. Now, obviously, I can't just spam talk to him. The only way to get more conversations with him is by dying. And so, in a way, you're being rewarded by dying, by getting more story, by getting more dialogue, and getting more reputation with these characters. So the longer you play, you're always progressing towards more reputations, and you can actually get rewards for levels of reputation. There you go, you see a little gift there. I've had a reward from him, as I've had a reward from a lot of these characters already, but you can absolutely get rewards from them by talking to them. Now, what you can do instead of talking to them is you can give them an ambrosia. If you give them an ambrosia, you will get the next level of, the next level of reputation. So, for example, Orpheus, let's go and give, if we can, because not every character turns up every death. Some characters only turn up every now and again. So here we go, we've got more conversation over here.
You're much too modest, Lord Achilles, for someone with such a number of heroic deeds and glorious decapitations to his name. You ought to be more like ever boastful Zagreus and talk it up some more.
Oh, fear not, Orpheus. I was quite boastful in my day. And would you look at where it got me? Besides, I've not the imagination to come up with tales as tall as those of our Prince Zagreus.
What can I say? I try.
So you get these nice little dialogues, and like I said, they're not just dialogues, they're also tied to a progression system, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. Pretty cool. And these ambrosia that you pick up in the dungeon also help with this. Now let's gift some to Dusa.
Miss Dusa, I wanted you to have this. It's nothing really, just for your hard work.
Prince, I'm really grateful for this, really, and I thought I kind of got something for you.
Thanks, Miss Dusa.
So there we go, we've just unlocked a new keepsake. Now keepsakes are relics. They are something that is... They kind of change the way that you play. You can only equip one at a time. So we just did that, we upgraded that, that's fantastic. Now this reputation system also extends to the Olympian gods in the dungeon, so you can save your ambrosia and give it to the Olympian gods, and that will give you relics. And the one that I got for Ares makes Ares turn up more, and I wonder if that's how all of them work, I'm not sure. But this is your bedroom, this is where you upgrade your character, this is the mirror, and this is where you spend your darkness. These are all your passive abilities. Now some of them require keys to unlock, and they take more keys as they get better. But once you have unlocked them, you can spend your darkness as you see fit, and you can refund your darkness and respend it on other abilities. And these give you passive bonuses, things like, for example, this Chthonic Vitality. Every time I go through a door, I get 3 health back. Infernal Soul, each rank gives you +1 for your cast. I haven't got that yet, but having more casts could be really handy. Each rank lets you chain 1 more dash in a row, so on and so forth. These are all passive upgrades. They're all good in some way, and you can take as many as you want, as many as you have the points for. So again, there is a permanent progression system in this game that is not hampered by your death. If anything, every death is giving you more progress on this, and it even says the only certainty is death. It is very, very different to a lot of Dark Souls games and things like that, where death really punishes you, and it says, hey, if you're gonna die and you die twice, well, say goodbye to your currency. This game is like, no, you're expected to die. The theme is there. You are in the underworld. You're gonna die a lot. Your dad is the Lord of Death. It makes sense. So once you go through here, you're back to the hub again. Sorry, you're back to the skeleton training dummy guy, and yeah, that's it. That's the game. That's what's here. So you have different weapons to choose from, and each weapon plays very differently. You have the bow, for example, which you can charge up your abilities, or you can do this. They all play very differently, and by the way, this skeleton will just stand here and let you try out the weapons. I like this. I like this because it lets you use the weapons before you actually go into the dungeon, which I like quite a lot. But you had to unlock these with keys. You start with the sword. I actually prefer the sword. The sword is my favorite. But they all play very differently. They all play very differently, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, these two here are they're missing. I don't know if they're going to be added in later on, or if I just haven't found them in the dungeon yet. I'm not really sure. I'm assuming they're going to be added later. But you have all of these, and then you have your keepsakes. Keepsakes are like relics. They are the way they will change the way that you play. For example, this one makes Ares guaranteed to spawn in the first room. This one you take 20 less damage from the front, but 10% more from the back. You had 24 more health, so on and so forth. They just change the way to play a little bit. And they will affect your run. But that's it. That's the game. This is what you do, and you'll be doing it a lot. You will be doing it, definitely. I've had that feeling already where I just want to do one more run. You know, I just want to progress a little bit. And this is definitely helped by the permanent progression. This is why I like a permanent progression in a roguelite game or a roguelite game, because really, that's what keeps me going. If I was to lose everything every time I died, I would get frustrated very quickly. I'm not the kind of person who likes a hardcore game, but I do like a game that says, hey, well, every time you die, you're chipping away slowly by slowly, you know, little by little, you're getting a bit better, and eventually you'll be powerful enough to leave this place and win. And I like that. I like that a lot. Like I've said, I really don't have much to criticize about this game. Honestly, I don't even know why it's in early access. The only logical reason I can think about this game being in early access is that they want to add more content over time, and they just wanted to get it into the players' hands as soon as possible. And honestly, I'm fine with it. As I said earlier, I am very critical of early access, but this doesn't even feel like early access. In the 3.5 hours that I've played now, I have encountered 0 bugs, 0 glitches, nothing. Everything works well. The game feels polished. It feels finished. It feels solid, and it feels fun to play. I've really enjoyed my time with it so far. I really want to see how much there is. I want to see how long this game lasts me. And again, I think maybe more content being added on in the future in the form of, you know, maybe expansion packs or anything like that could really help this game out. And of course, you know, you can't do that while the game's in early access. So I'm hoping that they add some more content in anyway. But like I say, I've reached the first boss. She kicked my ass. I haven't managed to beat the first boss yet. I don't know how much content is after the first boss. Like, is the rest of the game locked? Is it all that? I couldn't tell you. This is my first impression of the game. But the question that I asked at the start of this video was, buying a game in early access like this, do I feel like my money was well spent? And honestly, I absolutely do feel that my money was well spent in this one. I would highly recommend this. If you like games like Dead Cells, if you like games like The Binding of Isaac, and even games like Slay the Spire, where it's always that one more run mentality, and you like these games, I absolutely would recommend it. Bearing in mind, it does get difficult. The further up the dungeon you go, it does get more difficult, but over time you offset that with the upgrades that you get. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. This game is on sale in the UK anyway for $17.99, so I'm going to guess around $20 to $25. I'm not sure, but really I think it's really reasonably priced. I would recommend this highly. If you have played this and you've enjoyed it, please let me know down in the comments. If you have played this and you didn't enjoy it, let me know. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative, and I'll see you all next time.
Wow, you've died at least 5 times so far, I think. Dying's good for the whole ecosystem down here, so, thanks. You're helping make the underworld a better place.
Great. Just keep dying over and over and everything will be fine.